If I had to guess, this episode is probably going to be shorter than the last one since there are a lot of characters and new concepts to talk about. I didn't realize when I was making it that the previous video was going to be longer than the episode itself. Not all of these videos are going to be like that. There's not a lot to talk about in certain episodes, but I'll do my best. This episode starts with no intro. It goes straight from the credits of Gemglow to the title card of this episode. With this show having 11-minute episodes, Cartoon Network would air reruns 2 episodes at a time, and only the first one would get an intro. Also, something interesting to note is that this was the first episode to enter production, despite Gemglow being the first in the series. I just think that's neat, but I won't be spending much time in this series talking about background and production stuff. This series is for me to talk about the show itself, not the production behind it. Plus, I'd probably just get angry if I did. What is this? If I had to guess, it's a neon sign, but it never shows up in any later episode, as far as I can tell. It almost looks like a board note that got left in the final production, but I think it's supposed to be this sign on the arcade that you can see in other episodes, but that's not where the arcade is. This is like some Mandela effect shit. You guys like counter continuity? Well, this episode doesn't have any. In this first shot, there's just a ketchup bottle, and in the next one, there's that and salt shakers and a napkin holder, and in the very next shot, all of that is gone. And then they come back, and then they're all gone again.
Hey, Fryman! Give me the bits!
I was gonna poke fun at how Fryman has a totally literal name, but then remembered that pearl is a pearl, amethyst is an amethyst, etc. I will make fun of that hair. At first, you think it's just a hat that looks like fries, but no, that's his real, actual hair. There it is again, just the edge. It's not real, I'm fucking hallucinating. While this show was airing, in later seasons, people complained a lot about characters being off-model, but I think it's worse in these early episodes. This episode is worst of all. Look at small-face Pearl and Steven. That being said, you got some goddamn monkey arms.
Can I see?
No, you just moved it and totally messed up the angle. The red eye is so fucking ominous this whole episode. In this whole scene, there's no music, just this droning, humming noise in the background. Plus the orange light over everything this whole episode. The atmosphere in this show is so fucking good. She has nothing to do in this episode, just make her adjust her shades and look badass, I guess.
What are we going to do?
The only thing powerful enough to destroy it is a light cannon that belonged to Rose Quartz.
My mom?
If Rose were here, this would be so easy.
I never thought about it before, but Rose Quartz is only mentioned here in episode 2. The way Pearl and Amethyst just mention her in passing make it sound like she was important, but you don't get a really good feeling that she was the leader of the Crystal Gems until later episodes.
And the cannon is missing. We'll have to find another solution.
I mentioned it in Crystal Sins all those years ago, but Garnet specifically says the Red Eye can only be destroyed with the light cannon, and then Pearl just ignores her, and then Garnet just starts chucking Amethyst at it. I told you, sometimes the show just makes these characters stupid so Steven can save the day. This is the first time, of course, other than the intro, that we get to see the Mr. Universe van. Genuinely the coolest van in the history of cartoons. Fuck the Mystery Machine, I would drive the hell out of this.
Who's there? I have a waffle iron!
Alright, I'm done harping on first lines. This could have come from any character. It doesn't tell you anything about Greg. This scene, though, I think this is the best introductory scene you could have gotten for any character. From the way the Gems talk about him earlier, you think he's some sort of deadbeat. Same thing with him living in a van, #vanlife. But he's really sweet and caring and understands Steven's weird situation of being magic and giving him space to develop that. What year is this? $3 for a car wash?
You've got to know where it is. Like a cave dungeon, or a cloud fortress, or in a clam at the bottom of the ocean.
It's kind of cool that the show actually takes us to all these places eventually. God, this scene has some fucking cool background art. I wish I could talk about everything here, but none of it comes back in later episodes, so it's not significant. Just fun to look at and pause every quarter second.
Is this... buy t-shirt cannons?
This show doesn't go heavy on the comedy, so even a non sequitur gag like this can be pretty funny. In fact, it might be the funniest thing in the episode.
And we were always together after that. Until she gave up her physical form to bring you into the world.
This scene is also pulling off something rare, accomplishing something plot relevant while dumping exposition. What Greg says in this scene is basically everything you get to know about Rose Quartz for like 3 seasons.
If every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs.
Huh?
I always thought the light cannon just started glowing randomly here, but no, it's reacting to the fucking activation phrase. That's so fucking cool. Yep, I'm gonna have to report improper footwear to OSHA. You're gonna drop that thing and chop your toes off. This isn't the direction the Red Eye was coming from at the beginning of the episode. It was originally facing the boardwalk, which is on the opposite side from the car wash. I don't actually know what direction that is. Instead of north, south, east, west, I'll say Temple, Water Tower, Donut, Car Wash. The Red Eye was coming from Donut, and now it's coming from Temple Car Wash.
I know I'm not that smart, but
Let me drive my van into your heart.
These songs in early season 1 are really underwhelming. This one specifically fits too well into the background for this episode. It's not really its own musical number, it's almost like a montage. This is the first Mr. Smiley appearance. There he is, he doesn't do anything. I'm a sucker for this kind of single color lighting. This isn't the only time the show does it, and it's really pretty. What is this force coming from the Red Eye? It can't be gravity, because Amethyst would have just stuck to it after smashing into it. Is it vacuuming? Did Homeworld send this thing to Roomba the Earth? I think this is the best animation in this episode. Why this power pole, out of all things, looks so good, I have no idea. It honestly looks like something out of a Studio Ghibli movie. For these videos, I'm actually gonna look for the best animation in each episode. It sounds like a fun challenge.
The gem. You have Rose's gem. That's it.
I think Rose's gem is actually a red herring here. We saw it earlier, Greg was the one who activated it in the shed. I bet it would have even shot a hole through the roof if he wasn't muffled by the mountains of crap in the way. Listen close here and you can hear a stone on stone scraping noise. You would never notice if it wasn't here, but it is, and I'm glad that it is. You can tell a lot of love was put into this show with details like that. Am I the only one who sees any cartoon plank of wood and immediately thinks about Ed, Edd and Eddy? I can't be, right?
It's okay, Steven. We'll figure out something else. Something even better.
Greg is for sure talking out of his ass here, right? This line is only there to get Steven to say the activation phrase. Like, they're gonna die if the cannon doesn't fire. Smushed, buried under rubble. The only thing you could hope for that's better is a fast, painless death and a decent afterlife, if you believe in that sort of thing. The bottom of the cannon is the same pattern as Rose's shield. Very cool, very cool. You'll notice throughout the show that the pattern comes up a lot in Rose's belongings. Not to mention the top of the cannon itself looks like a rose, but that one's obvious. That's not even worth points. Throughout this episode, new viewers are probably wondering, what is a light cannon? What does a light cannon really do? And I think this has some really good payoff in this scene. The music and visuals working together makes for a really nice spectacle. The laser looks like rose quartz if you couldn't already tell. But what's really impressive is that it takes out the Red Eye in one shot. It's a shame the cannon only gets used one more time in the whole show. You don't really get a sense of scale of this thing until the chunks start splashing down into the water. It's like the moon, it's kind of impossible to tell how big and far away it is just by looking at it in the sky, but I think as soon as the moon starts crashing into the earth, you'd get a pretty good idea of how actually massive it is. Not to say that the Red Eye is moon-sized, but it definitely had some effect on the tides. Is it one of those mop Roombas? I gotta get me one of those. That weird sign thing from the beginning of the episode is gone! I think one of the chunks smashed it. It makes total sense now why you don't see it in any other episode. Do you think there's insurance to protect people who live in Beach City against magical stuff like this? Or would this kind of thing just be classified as a natural disaster? I bet Beach City property values are really low despite being oceanfront. Nobody would want to buy a house where these magic disasters happen all the time. Then again, people live in Florida and San Francisco and those property values are absurd. These are the things I think about.
My van!
It's okay, Dad. If every pork chop were perfect,
I love it there!
Can we teach Steven some firearm safety? He was about to ND that thing into the sky. That would have been the second time he did it this episode too. I think this is the first good episode of this show. Gemglow was serviceable as an introduction, but I think this episode gets really into the meat of what this show is and what it will be in the future. It's the first episode that has actual plot relevance, with it introducing Rose Quartz and explaining where Steven's gem comes from. And to all of you who are going to say that episode 1 is plot relevant because of the Centipedal comes back later, I have to ask, did it really have to be the Centipedal? Couldn't it have been any other gem that they fought this season? Either way, if Gemglow was the filter that would get rid of anyone disinterested in the show, Laser Light Cannon is the episode that would hook the viewers that would stick around for the rest of it. It's definitely flexing the show's strengths. That all being said, there's a lot of episodes to get through before you actually get to the real meat of this show. The real story kicks off only halfway through season 1. That's 23 episodes from now. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad until then. Speaking of a lot of bad, the next episode is Cheeseburger Backpack. See you then.